Hello everybody, my name is Sergey Prilutskiy. I'm head of research of Mixed Bytes company and project Smartz.io. Today we're gonna talk about the algorithm of consensus. Let's look into consensus algorithm in more detail. When our clients download the new blocks from the blockchain, it can receive two versions of the same block. For example, we download the block number 50. Now my client must choose which one of these blocks is true and choose the one and only one way from block number 49 to block number 50. So it must forget some of the any concurrent blocks and leave one and only one. This is the task of the consensus algorithm. The first task of consensus algorithm is to filter all bad blocks. So if some bad player is published some bad block, violated a lot of rules. For example, it included the wrong transaction in the block. For example, it set the wrong timestamp too much in future or in the past. For example, if this block doesn't include the hash of previous block, etc., all these checks is performed by consensus algorithm. All these checks are described as the program code, and every blockchain client receiving the block from the network, the first performs all checks to determine if this block is valid. Speaking in development language, we can consider the consensus algorithm like a single function is block valid. So we just reject invalid blocks and accept the valid blocks. Now, downloading the new version of the concurrent block from the blockchain, our client in each stage must decide which block is valid. Talking about the whole blockchain, it means that we choose one and only one main chain. This is a very important fact. It doesn't matter how many different blocks we download from the blockchain. Our algorithm chooses one and only one fork of the blockchain, so call it the main chain. Our client can change the chains free. It can change the main chain to the new version after some times. So we can work with this fork, but in the next minute we can forget all these blocks and begin to work with this chain, because algorithm of consensus says that this block is valid, this block is valid, this block is valid, and these blocks are invalid. This is the process of work of every client of every blockchain. It just downloads the new blocks and decides which of them belongs to the main chain. Okay, we have dealt with the validity of blocks, but what if we have several honest players and they publish the same version of block? What to do in this case? How to compete between two honest blocks? This is also the task of the consensus algorithm and the first type of such an algorithm, so call it proof of work. Proof of work. It uses it in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many other cryptocurrencies, and the decision of which fork is the main chain is very simple here. If we're building a blockchain and we are deciding which fork is the main chain, in proof of work scheme we just select the chain with the maximum complexity The maximum complexity means that miners spend more power to generate this fork. For example, if this fork was harder to compute than this one becomes the mine chain. The second type of the consensus algorithm, so-called proof of stake. Proof of stake. Here we choose this fork that was built by the stakeholders of the cryptocurrency we use. It means that people who has a lot of cryptocurrency on their account are incentivized to keep the blockchain safe and keep it honest, because they are holders of a big amount of cryptocurrency, and they want to sure that their blockchain is honest and people use it and know that nobody can cheat them. So in these blockchains we can build such the blockchain faster, and such types of consensus are much more faster than proof of work, based on the calculations of rich calculations. The third type of consensus is proof of authority. The first type of the consensus is the proof of authority. It's much simpler than previous two types. Here wins the fork built by the authorities. So we have some fixed set of participants that we trust, and they just sign their blocks, and such blockchains can build much faster than any other. Of course, there is a lot of consensus algorithm with many types of interaction. But all these types of algorithm of consensus have one important property. All the decision about the chain must be set without any external knowledge. So we know only the blockchain on the client and nothing more. We just download a new block and decide which chain is the mine chain. We don't need to go somewhere in the internet and ask some authority, is this block valid or not, is the sender is good or not. We just download the block, apply the consensus algorithm and make the decision, is it right or not. This is the most important part of the consensus algorithm. Without such a property, the blockchain is simply impossible, because when we have a lot of independent nodes and each of them downloads the different versions of the same block, the decision must be made only locally, only on the node, because there is nobody to trust for this node. This node don't trust this node, this node, this node. It just downloads the new block and make a decision on its side. This is the most important property of the consensus algorithm. Of course, the consensus algorithm is more complicated matter than this short explanation. Of course, the consensus algorithm has a lot of technical problems, like double spend, like forks, like network splits, etc. But this area is development very intensively in this time. If you want to know more about this matter, please read articles that we present here. See you in the next video. Bye.